So Nick, lovely to have you on the Sales and Sports podcast. Thank you for coming on at late notice. For those of you that don't know, Nick is a two-time founder and exited Design My Night for over £30 million. So we're in good company here, the first startup founder on the Sales and Sports podcast. So yeah, I guess Nick, would love to hear from yourself what you're up to at the moment, how you broke into, I guess, the tech space and what you're doing at the moment with Trumpet.
Yeah, so I broke into the tech space, I think, after my first job. So I worked at L'Oreal doing marketing. That was straight out of university. I did a languages degree, so nothing to do with business or marketing or sales or anything. And then in my mid-20s, decided that I wanted to go alone. And one of my best mates from uni, Andrew, had the same thoughts as me, luckily, and we came up with the idea for Design My Night when we were actually on holiday in New York together. And yeah, with no tech experience, either of us, we decided to launch Design My Night, which ended up being like an 8-9 year journey. We grew it to over 100 people, based out in London. And yeah, for our first startup was really successful, which is great. Bit of a sort of household name for anyone going out, especially in London. So that's always great for us that people still talk about Design My Night. And then, yeah, when I exited that, which was in 2019, COVID hit very soon after. So we sort of all were stuck indoors. So I thought, let's just go again. For some bizarre reason. And we actually looked at the sales space. So we looked back at Design My Night. We thought which teams didn't really have good tech. And it's actually, we looked at the sales team and they had lots of outreach tools. We obviously had CRM, but then that whole gap in the middle when you're sort of going back and forward with your prospect was all just done over emails, links, PDFs, decks. So we thought, actually, it goes to about 3 years ago now, like, why don't we build a space that you can collaborate with your buyer on? And this became a digital sales room, which became Trumpet. We were sort of one of the first to come out onto the market. In the last sort of 6-7 months, it's become a bit of a trend, which is great for us. But yeah, it's all about salespeople, AEs, SDRs, building collaborative, personalized spaces that you can drop all the different types of content in. You need videos, audios, customer success stories, etc., and collaborate with your buyer in that one space to then ultimately get the deal done.
Awesome. Sounds like, obviously a space that's blowing up, and I guess quite nice that in a weird way that you're getting more, I guess, folk even trying to enter the space, because it sort of validates, you guys and maybe the idea you had initially. And with Design My Night and Trumpet, was it like a light bulb moment where you thought of the idea and then couldn't sleep and you decided to pursue it? And I guess going back to your grad scheme, did you know what you wanted to do when you came out of university? And are you a big advocate for, I guess, young grads going on grad schemes and get experience? And I guess would love to know your thoughts on early careers and, I guess, traditional education.
Yeah, I mean, I always just thought marketing. I didn't really know 100% what it entailed. I'm quite creative in my mind. So I think I just thought that was a career that would work for me. The grad scheme, I think they were a lot bigger back in the day. I'm going quite a way back now. L'Oreal was one of the main ones in London. For me, it was great. I think there's a lot of people that look down now at sort of corporate grad schemes. Startups are the sort of sexy thing to go into. But actually, it's a great base to sort of learn the foundations of business. Like, you come out of university, or you don't go to university, you've come out of school or whatever. And, obviously you don't really know the ins and outs of business. So, at L'Oreal, as well as marketing, I was like taught how to manage multi-stakeholders and agencies, how to work to deadlines, how to manage sort of internal politics, how to manage teams. So I learned a lot from my managers and then ended up managing my own team. And then the business stuff, so learning like a budget, a P&L, how to forecast, all of these things on a big scale, because it's a company like L'Oreal, was sort of invaluable to me. However, having said that, I do tell sort of younger people I speak to just to sort of, follow your sort of desire of what you want to do. We're in a world now where you can go and do your own thing very quickly, whether that's in like influencer marketing. You can start startups very cheaply and easily. If you want, you don't have to spend a fortune like we did back in the day with like a digital agency. But also I would say if you are really interested in startups, then, you don't necessarily have to be a founder straight away. Go and work in a startup. And, I've hired a lot of people in my various startups. And to be honest, like very rarely look at CV. So, I'm not really interested if you've been to university. Especially in startups, you're more looking for sort of that passion, that drive, willingness to learn, willing to work hard. Those are the traits I really look for. So yeah, I would advise there's no one single route that you should go down. But if you love business and you love startups, then yeah, look, the earlier you can get into them, the better, the more you can learn. And then that, if you do want to then go and do your own thing, provides you with a nice basis to then go and set up your own thing one day.
Love that. That's great advice, and that's what someone told me actually when I was thinking of starting something out of university. It's go get some experience, learn from other people, learn from their mistakes, and then you might have some more substance to crack on and do something yourself. So that's awesome. It is a sales and sports podcast, so we'd love to hear your sales experience. Were you taught sales, or was it something as a founder you just had to go and do? Did it come naturally to you? And any stories from, I guess, the early days, your first startup or even Trumpet? What's your sort of go-to-market strategy at the moment, and what have you done in the past in terms of sales?
Yeah, so sales was I never really looked at sales as a career I was going to go into. But yeah, as you say, as a founder, it's probably one of the most important skills you can have as a founder. Every founder should be able to sell their own business. And I always say, you're constantly selling. So you're selling your vision to investors, you're selling the company to your employees, you're selling the product to potential customers. So like selling as a skill, I see more as like a personality trait. And I sort of stumbled into it as a founder that I had good, sales personality traits, being analytical, personable, can make connections quickly, can make connections with different people from different walks of life, being honest and relatable when you speak to someone, that you're not sort of BSing them. Those are sort of the soft skills, if you want, that are so important in sales. It's become obviously an art, with all the tools that are out there now, and, knowing how to nurture leads, find leads, sequence those leads, all of the sort of juicy sales stuff that you might learn. But for me, if you don't have that, just that, that sense to be able to relate to people and get on with people and make people like you, make people follow you, I think you can have all the tools in the world, but, sales might not be for you. Obviously, a big personality trait as well is persistence. You have to obviously cope with rejection. You have to brush it off and go again. You have to be humble enough to learn from your rejections as well. It's not always them. You might have done something wrong to make them reject you, so you need to be open to learning about that as well. But yeah, it's one of the hardest industries, I think. It can be really rewarding financially, and excitedly. Like, the sales team are the one that drives a business forward. Without sales, you don't have a business. But it can equally be pretty soul destroying. If you're not hitting your target, you're not making cash. It's very cut and thrust. If you're not hitting your numbers, you could get rid of. And that's sort of the risk reward of sales. So it's definitely not like a comfortable sit back and relax job. And it suits some people a lot better than others. I see like customer success, account management as ones which are great for people that might not have that hunter instinct of a salesperson, but have the personal skills to get on with people. CS and account management, which is essentially soft selling, could be a great position for you to go into.
100%. No, definitely back that up. It's probably more on the relationship front, right? Instead of that transactional sell and that sort of outbound mentality. That's great. And I guess at the moment at Trumpet, do you have a outbound sales function? Are you selling, day to day? And yeah, what's your ICP at Trumpet? Are you selling to head of sales, or, who are you guys reaching out to? Because salespeople don't like to be sold to.
Yeah, you do find that when you try and sell to salespeople, they're just trying to sell you their product back at you, which can be quite frustrating. So currently we've got an SDR, we've got 2 AEs hiring for another at the moment. May stretch that to 4. You've got myself selling and Rory, who's one of our other co-founders. There's 3 of us in Trumpet. Rory was head of sales for EMEA for Hotjar, which was a bit of a rocket ship. So he comes with incredible sales experience and knows all of those, the tools and the tricks and the secrets that maybe I didn't know. I'm more of a personality salesperson, so us combined is quite powerful. And yeah, our go-to-market is both. So we've got a big inbound flow. So we do a lot of content marketing. We make a lot of noise. So we get a lot of inbound. We're trying to get a bit of a product-led growth motion going. So people sign up, use it for free, get going, love it, and then go to a pay plan with sort of no interaction from us. And then on the other side, our outbound motion is going to, the more mid-market and enterprise customers. ICP, very varied. I think that's the beauty and the problem of Trumpet. Basically, anyone with a sales team should be using Trumpet. But, that could be a 2-person sales team or a 5,000 sales team. What we are very focused on is zooming in for our own sales team. So sort of mid-market, 50 to 400 employees, might take like 5 to 30 seats on Trumpet. B2B tech sales are sort of where we hone in on. But yeah, we cover all ranges. And yeah, the beauty of Trumpet is you can use Trumpet to sell Trumpet. So obviously Trumpet is an outbound tool as well. So, we call them pods, these digital spaces. So, our team are spinning up these pods and using Trumpet to sell Trumpet. So, when they open a pod, we're like, this is the product, and we're selling it to you within our own product. So that's quite a nice position and quite a unique position to be in for us.
Interesting. So I guess for like an initial email, it would be a hyperlink to Trumpet, or it'd just be like, how would that work, I guess? And how's the space changing? Because it sounds like you guys are doing lots in the content space. Do you think outbound B2B sales is going to become, or is becoming, more content led? So yeah, 2 questions there. I guess first off, how does Trumpet work for an SDR or an account executive? And then how do you see maybe the SDR role evolving, or outbound sales evolving, down the line?
Yeah, so our sort of core user is an AE, and one of our best use cases is sort of a post demo follow up. So you've done the discovery call, or you've done a demo. Rather than following up with an email with a deck and loads of links, you follow up with this link, and you can just say, hey, thanks so much for our demo. We're going to manage our relationship going forward in this digital space. Just click on this link, and they can open it up, and it's personalized to them, which the AE can do in like seconds. It's got all the content they need. You can drop in the recording of your demo. You can drop in other video content, etc., and just give the buyer everything they need up front to make a buying decision. The beauty of that is also in one space. So your champion, if they need to get internal buy-off from more stakeholders, they can just send the pod to their stakeholders and be like, look, this is everything that Trumpet is about. So that's our core use case. SDRs, yes. So as you'd expect, instead of sending a deck, you can send a personalized pod. So, they open it up, it's personalized to them, their name, their brand, their colors, and has information about your product. And then, like a Calendly embed so they can book a demo. SDRs are a funny one because we're not a magic bullet. So if you are a poor SDR, we won't, get them opened for you. We've had SDRs come back and go, oh, it doesn't work. And we'd say, oh, let's talk through what you're doing. And they would do one touch point and they didn't get an open, and then they didn't follow up. And we were like, well, to be a good SDR, you need on average 8 touch points before you get any engagement. So you can't just think you'll just message them cold on LinkedIn with a pod and think, you'll get a meeting booked. So we're very much at the whim of the SDR in that use case, whereas the AE, it's already warm. So yeah, they're sort of 2 of the main use cases, but then we have customer success and account management that can also use these pods as well. So it can go across the whole sort of revenue team, as we call them, which is really exciting for us. What was the second question?
Second question, how do you see the sort of outbound sales space evolving with content?
Yeah, so we're very much at the forefront of this trend called buyer enablement. So for years and years and years, it's been about sales enablement, which is essentially tools to make salespeople better hunters, but not thinking about the buyer. So it just allows you to, sequence them more, find out information about them and blast them. And, it's all about the salesperson, just bang, 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 bang. Now, buyer enablement has come along, and Trumpet, we call a buyer enablement tool, which is thinking about the buyer. So it's not thinking about how can we blast the buyer. It's about how can we make the buying experience as enjoyable as possible. And if you make a enjoyable buying experience, people will buy from you more. And that is buyer enablement. And part of that is personalization. Part of that is collaboration. So actually bringing a prospect into your space, not being like one way, just blasting them. It's multi-stakeholder, multi-threading. So making sure you've got all the content for the different stakeholders to make sure they have everything they need. It's not about gating your content just to get an email address. It's about giving them the content, educate your buyer. I think a Gartner report recently says, 33% of tech buyers don't even want to speak to anyone. So it's not about trying to get them on calls and trying to get them on, demos every 5 minutes. It's about having one conversation with them and following up with everything they need to make a decision. And that's what buyer enablement's all about. And I fear that, especially with AI, salespeople, especially SDRs, are now almost being coached to spam at scale, I call it. And AI will allow you to just spurt out outreach incredibly quickly with some level of personalization. But I really think that's not the way to do sales. It's actually, I think, going to go the opposite way, where it's about hyper personalization, taking the time to give them the content that's relevant to them, and not just throwing everyone into the same bucket with just small elements of personalization. I already get sold to with AI, and I can see it a mile off. So yeah, I think we need to be really, really careful that sales is a person-to-person activity. People buying from you are people, they're not machines. So I'm very skeptical of these sort of mass spray and pray AI solutions that are out there at the moment.
Interesting. No, I appreciate you sharing that. That's super interesting to hear. I think from my side, there's going to be a big shift as well back to even in-person sales as well, in terms of outbound, weirdly, through events and less of the sort of spray and pray AI approach, because I think it's such a busy space. Actually being in the room with people, or a virtual room is even better. Cool. Well, this is a sales and sports podcast. We said we'd keep it 20 minutes. I think we've just gone over. Are you a sports fan, and what are the crossovers you see between early stage startups and sports, or even sales and sports? Would love to hear your thoughts if you've played sports before or support teams as well.
Yes, I'm a big football fan. So I played football since I was like 10. As I've got older, I've become probably less useful on the pitch. Try and play five-a-side now, but sort of injure myself every time I do. Must remember to stretch better. I'm a big Spurs fan. So yeah, I've supported Spurs. It's been in my family my whole life. So I go to as many games as possible. I live in London, so I get to go to the Spurs stadium as much as possible. So pretty happy with where we are at the moment. So sort of relatively happy Spurs fan, which is rare. And I think there is so many crossovers, especially with sales and founders probably. if you think, let's just think of athletes, they have to be relentless. They have to deal with rejection. They have to work on themselves all the time, but also work as a team. They have to put in so much effort to just get small percentage gains. And I think that is the same with founders and sales. It's always bettering yourself to just get that 1 or 2% better, which will put you ahead of the competition, whether it's another person in your sales team or as a company or a founder outplaying your competition. So yeah, I think there are a lot of crossovers between the two. And yeah, I was never good enough to get sort of pro level, but the people at that level, the elite athletes are like the elite founders in terms of their mentality. So yeah, I think that there's very similar crossovers, which is why now a lot of athletes are actually investing in startups as well. It's a sort of world that they understand and they get that mentality.
Epic. And just before we wrap, be foolish not to ask, what did you feel, what was the emotions when Harry Kane left Spurs, and also what do you make of Big Ange at Spurs? Are you guys going to get top 4 this season? Is he going to stay, or is he going
to yeah, gutted when Harry left, but happy for him. Since I've been alive, he's been playing, and so I've watched him become one of the best strikers in the world. And unlike some Spurs fans, I would love him to win some stuff at Bayern. He deserves it. Just an incredible professional. And yeah, just seemed like one of those true sort of gents. He was family focused. He focused on football. You'd never see him in the papers. And for whatever reason, he's always undervalued by English people, but he's the greatest scorer of all time for England, the greatest scorer of all time for Tottenham. Like, he's an absolute legend and will always be, and hopefully he'll come back, one day, maybe like Gareth Bale did. And yeah, Big Ange, he's a masterclass in leadership. I've watched a lot of his videos in changing rooms and in the sort of analysis rooms. And he feels like that perfect crossover of firm but fair. So, I feel like you wouldn't mess with him. But he also seems, the players seem to gravitate to him and want to perform to him. And his whole mantra seems to be he's sort of underestimated his whole career, but everywhere he's gone, he's won. So yeah, it's great just to see Spurs playing Spurs football again, free-flowing football, very exciting, losing games, winning games, but it's never dull. And I think, yeah, we should, when the season started, I would have said 7th, especially having lost Harry. But this young team we're formulating now is mega exciting. So I think 4th definitely this year. And I think over the next 3-4 years with Ange there, I could see us winning a title, with Klopp leaving, with Guardiola probably leaving. This young team, which, a lot of our best players now are under 24. Yeah, I think can be a real powerhouse over the next 4 or 5 years.
Nice. Also got a solid back line with, was it Van der Ven, Romero, seriously good wing backs coming through so as well. So it's exciting being a Spurs fan, no doubt. But yeah, Nick, absolute pleasure having you on. Thanks so much. Where's the best place for people to find you if they want to link in or learn more about Trumpet? Yeah, so I'm on LinkedIn. So find me on LinkedIn, connect with me on there. I'm constantly giving tips about being a founder, startup sales. And if you want to check out Trumpet, that's on sendtrumpet.com. Awesome. And the podcast, your podcast still going? I was a listener. Yeah, rebooting the podcast. So that's called Pitch Deck. So actually that will be coming out in the next, it was meant to be Feb, but next few weeks, hopefully. And that's all around early stage investing. So if you're a founder, and you're raising an early round, or you're just interested in fundraising for startups, yeah, go find that. It's called Pitch Deck. Awesome. Thanks so much, Nick. Thanks, Jack. Cheers. See you soon. See ya. Bye-bye.